The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, welcome to my show. We're doing another Skype interview. This time it will be with Steve Karlen, the North American Director of 40 Days for Life. We'll be talking for at least 20-25 minutes, and it's going to be a very interesting interview. So just hang in there and we'll be with you right back in a moment. So here we are with Steve Karlen, the Director of North American Outreach, 40 Days for Life. So I'm going to ask him several questions, and here we go. Question, where were you born and raised?
Sure, I was born in a town called Wausau, Wisconsin. I grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is close to Green Bay, a community that many people might know because we've got a famous football team. And I now live in Madison, Wisconsin.
How far is that from here?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. It's
I know
certainly a number of hours.
You're an hour behind in the time, so yeah, it must be a wee bit of a ways. Central time, no?
We're on the far eastern side of the central time zone, so if you go into Michigan or if you go into Indiana, I know it's eastern time zone, but Wisconsin and Illinois, we are central time zone.
Were you brought up in a Christian home?
I was brought up in a Christian home and always took my faith seriously. Didn't really know it particularly well until I became an adult, though, and that's when I really started to learn about my faith and to, I hope, put it into action.
So you're married and have kids or something?
I am. I've got a beautiful wife, Laura, and I've got a son, Peter, who is 7, coming up on 8. I've got a son named John Paul, and we've got a baby who is on the way.
Congratulations. Mazel tov.
Thank you so much.
So, when did you first start getting interested in pro-life?
You know, I've always been pro-life, but for most of my life I never did anything about it, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was lazy or maybe I didn't know what I could do to make a difference, but when I was a newlywed, my wife Laura and I were living in Chicago, and one of her coworkers had an abortion. Laura had done everything she could think of to try to help talk her out of it. In fact, she did talk her out of it, but the doctors pressured her back into that abortion decision. And so that's when I recognized it wasn't enough for me to just be pro-life. I had to do something about it and to put that conviction into action. And so that's how I got involved. 40 Days for Life took off throughout the United States. About 6 months later, I kind of witnessed that first campaign taking place and then got involved in the next one.
So tell me, what is 40 Days for Life? Actually, what do they do?
40 Days for Life is a prayerful campaign that aims to end abortion, employing 3 components: prayer and fasting, prayer being the foundation of all that we do as people of faith, and fasting because we hear our Lord's words that some demons are only cast out through prayer and fasting. The second component is community outreach, really educating our communities, the general public, on the crisis of abortion in our midst. So many people don't know how serious this crisis is, and they're not aware of the fact that it's taking place right there in the communities that they live in and that they work in. And then the third component of 40 Days for Life is a all-day, everyday prayer vigil at the locations where abortions take place or the businesses that refer for abortions. So I think that's kind of the hallmark of our campaign. What we might be most known for is that vigil out on the sidewalk all day, every day for 40 straight days.
So do you do that? How many times a year do you do the 40 days? Twice or how many times?
That's right. We do one in the fall. It usually goes from late September into early November. And we do one, we call it the spring campaign, but I know you're in the upper Midwest. I'm here in Wisconsin in the upper Midwest. It's it's more of a late winter campaign, but we do it twice a year, just like you said.
So, what inspired? Who was the leader of 40 Days for Life?
Sure, 40 Days for Life started really in 2004,
Right.
and there were a group of pro-lifers in College Station, Texas, where the Texas A&M University is based,
Yeah.
and they were frustrated because Planned Parenthood had been in their town for a number of years, and they had done everything they could think of to try to get this Planned Parenthood abortion facility out of their community. And so, in frustration, they went to prayer, which they should have done probably all along, but they spent an hour in prayer around an old wooden table, and during the time in prayer, these four individuals felt two things come onto their hearts.
Wow.
One is that time period of 40 days, and we know the Lord uses 40 days all throughout Scripture as a time of testing His people and also as a time of transforming His people. And so they acknowledge, yes, we are willing to be tested, and yes, our community needs some transformation. And then the second thing that was put on their heart is, well, what do we do over these 40 days? And that's where that prayer and fasting, community outreach, and peaceful vigil comes in. So that's how it started. David B. Wright and Sean Carney are two leaders now. They were two of those original four people. The campaign was a one-time effort in College Station, but they continued to do it. And then other cities throughout the U.S. picked it up. And then in 2007, 89 cities in 33 states throughout the United States launched a simultaneous campaign. And that brings us to this campaign that's underway right now. We have 252 cities in countries all around the world that are participating in 40 Days for Life at this very moment.
So you go touring to these places where they have the 40 Days for Life vigils, or?
I do. I've been blessed to be in about 130 or 140 different cities the last 2 years, I would say. And last week I spent in Alabama helping kick off the campaigns throughout the great state of Alabama. And then from there I came home for about 11 hours, and then I flew up to Calgary
Alberta.
in Alberta and helped kick off the campaign there. So yeah, we've been blessed. David B. Wright, Sean Carney, and I are on the road domestically, and I've got a counterpart, our Director of International Outreach, Robert Calhoun. He has been taking on the rest of the world, actually.
So, are you guys in China?
We're not in China. They pretty much cracked down on pro-lifers in China, though we can dream of the day that we are there.
Oh. Now that how long
We
is
do
it?
it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We do have campaigns in a number of countries right now, all over England and the United Kingdom, all over Australia. We actually have 10 campaigns in Croatia. We've got campaigns throughout Africa, 4 going on in Mexico right now. I will actually visit the Mexico City campaigns at the end of this campaign, Latvia, Moscow, the heart of the old Soviet Union. So it's spread all over, not to China, but to many different countries throughout our world.
So how long have you been on the road? Do you go, how often do you go a year, certain places? Do you go more than half a year traveling, or just a whole year?
The campaign is about 6 weeks. 40 days is just shy of 6 weeks. And so, I'll be gone maybe a few days a week, 4 or 5 weeks during the course of the campaign.
I am praying for you. I'm so glad that you guys are in action, so to speak. We have a Planned Parenthood building here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we don't know what they're up to. But we've been doing, since the abortionist here in Fort Wayne was arrested and had been stopped doing abortions here for hopefully forever. I mean, we're trying to get South Bend to not do it anymore as well, because most of the kids who are getting abortions are going to South Bend.
Yes, I know when I joined the 40 Days for Life team here, I started out as one of the local leaders in Madison, but when I joined the team and started traveling on the road, one of my first visits was to Fort Wayne. So I had the chance to pray across the street from the abortion facility, that doctor that you mentioned, that abortionist that you mentioned where he practiced. And I know I know they aren't doing abortions there right now, thanks be to God, and hopefully South Bend will follow in those footsteps soon and be abortion-free as well.
You know, all these abortionists to me are killers. And they need prayer and forgiveness, but they need to know the truth that they're taking babies' lives, and they have to have compassion and love back into their hearts. I don't know what makes an abortionist that. Why are they, I'm trying to think their way, why are they doing something like that to our own children?
Well, we know there are a lot of reasons, and in some cases, there's just a lot of money involved in abortion. It's a very lucrative business. In other cases, there are individuals who legitimately feel as though they're helping women, and it's a misguided sense of compassion. But as you said, they need to have compassion, and sometimes the best way to bring that out is through the compassion that we show by being out in front of their abortion center praying for an end to abortion. And that's why we've seen 107 abortion workers have conversions, leave their jobs, and begin a new walk with Christ through the witness of 40 Days for Life participants. We've got a very close eye. I can't say exactly where, but there's a location in the Midwest right now where there's a nurse who is looking to get out of the abortion industry, and we are certainly praying that our local volunteers there will be able to help her find her way out of the abortion industry and begin that new walk with Christ and find healing for herself as well.
Do you have sidewalk counselors? Do you train them yourself, or where do they get trained so they can be helpful on a 40 Days for Life vigil?
It's a great question. We do have sidewalk counselors at many of our campaigns, not all of them. Sidewalk counseling isn't required to do 40 Days for Life, but is certainly for those who are called to do so, leads to more saved lives and more mothers and fathers that are spared the pain of abortion. And so we don't have any in-depth training for sidewalk counselors. Many of them are trained locally or by other organizations. There's a group out, Sidewalk Advocates for Life, which has been training sidewalk counselors nationally. And so that's a lot of the cases of where we have sidewalk counselors. They found other training beyond 40 days.
We're going to have 40 Days for Life in September of this year. We didn't have one this spring, but we will have one in September. And last year, when the abortion clinic was closed, we were outside near Planned Parenthood praying there, and we're going to do it again. It's sad that they had to do it for money, that Planned Parenthood.
It is. I know I've been in touch with Karla, who leads the Fort Wayne campaign, and she's been really wanting to keep an eye, because that Planned Parenthood right now is not performing abortions, but referring for them. But a lot of times when Planned Parenthood comes to a community, it's with an eye on ultimately opening up an abortion center. And so while your community right now is free of a facility that performs abortions, we certainly want to make sure it stays that way.
We want them out of Indiana. We do.
No doubt. We would love to see the day where Planned Parenthood is history.
And the government is not helping, is it?
There are a lot of tax dollars going to support Planned Parenthood in the abortion industry. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's frustrating. But I think it goes to show that we don't necessarily need the support of the government. It would be great if they would quit funding Planned Parenthood. But our Lord can do all things. Yes. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, and that's why we take the matter to prayer.
Definitely, because that's the strongest weapon we can use is prayer. And God is definitely on our side. My late aunt was an abortionist many moons ago in the 60s and 70s in Toronto. And they said, this is nothing but a blob, get rid of it. And I don't know how many abortions she did before she died, but it took me a long time for me to forgive her, because I was a very angry person. I was Roman Catholic, being raised. I'm Lutheran now, Lutherans for Life, but being Roman Catholic, I was staunch. Birthright up in Toronto. I don't know whether it's still there or not, but I worked with them all these years for almost 27 years. here in Fort Wayne with Lutherans for Life and Allen County Right to Life. Do you know Kathy Hamburger?
Yes, I had the chance to meet her back on that trip where I mentioned one of my first visits to a campaign site was to Fort Wayne. I had the chance to meet her that weekend.
Well, in May, I'm going to be interviewing Monica Kelsey. You know her?
I haven't met her, but I know her by reputation.
And also Representative of Indiana, Casey Cox. They're talking about making baby box. You know, they. Have you heard about the baby box? It's in the news.
I have. I heard about it quite a bit at the March for Life this year.
Yeah, well, they're doing that. This is the first time in the United States something like that is happening. It's basically done in Europe and Canada, but finally the United States is doing something about it. So I'm going to be interviewing those two in the studio. So.
Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful.
I'll keep you posted and everything like that.
Excellent.
What do you see the future for 40 Days for Life? You're hoping that it'll be sent out of business or something like that?
It would be great to see abortion end and to see no more need for 40 Days for Life, you know, and all of us could go back to spending our free time doing something other than shivering on a sidewalk. I think we would all love to see that. But until that day comes, we're hoping to continue to grow. We've been working on a program here in the States where we can hopefully go beyond 40 days. The communities that have done 40 Days for Life and would like to keep up their activism all throughout the year, we're working on programs for them to be able to do so. And beyond that, we're also looking at continuing to expand our international footprint. Abortion is not just a crisis in the United States, but it's a huge crisis all throughout the world. And so we are really looking strongly at bringing it to more countries. I know I've talked last month to some leaders in South Korea that would like to bring the first campaign there. Yeah. We're looking at a possible campaign in Italy for the first time. So we want to make sure that everywhere that there are children being lost to abortion, mothers being scarred by abortion, that there is the presence of faithful, peaceful pro-lifers out on the sidewalks praying for an end to abortion.
There's a lot of countries out there that are not Christian.
There are. And,
how can you reach those, especially when you're Christian-based? Are you just faith-based or Christian-based? What?
We are a Christian organization, and there have been people who have not been Christians who have participated in 40 Days for Life, and that's wonderful. We don't keep them out, but we're really Christ-centered in what we do, and so that's important. But as far as the countries that are not Christian go, I think it's like any sort of mission work. Many of those countries, they've got Christian aid workers who are providing things like clean water or education. In the same way, we can send people of faith out to, witness to the sanctity of life. I think it's something that every culture, every religious background can recognize that life is precious and worthy of protection.
You bet. I have another question, the last one. How, as we individuals, can reach out to the mums and dads of the unborn who are contemplating on abortion? How can we reach out individually, besides prayer?
If you want to reach out to those who are in danger or vulnerable to having abortion, I think the key is to go where they are. And where they are is at the abortion centers and at the abortion referral sites. And that's why I urge everybody to get involved. If you're in Fort Wayne, you can go to 40daysforlife.com/Fort Wayne this September when the campaign happens. In the meantime, you can go to 40daysforlife.com and find out where the closest active campaign is at the moment. You just get out and participate in it. Go to the sidewalk and pray, but it's also an opportunity to reach out. Maybe it's just handing a brochure. Maybe it is active sidewalk counseling. Maybe it's holding a sign that says, there's help available with a phone number or a website or an offer to direct a woman in crisis to a pregnancy resource center. There are all sorts of ways, but a lot of times the key is just getting out to the sidewalks, getting out to the places where abortions take place, and being that active witness. It doesn't take a great deal of expertise. Just showing up is, in fact, half of the battle.
You're a very blessed person.
I am blessed, and I'm blessed to be with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview me and to discuss 40 Days for Life.
And thank you for getting in touch. It's so wonderful to talk with you, and I think we had better say goodbye. I mean, thank you. Someday I'd like to re-interview you again, if you like.
I look forward to that.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming and being on my show, Patty's Page. And I'll keep you posted on what's happening.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, sir. Have a great
Take care.
Good Easter.
You too.
And thank you for tuning into my show. This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Our guest was Steve Karlen, Director of North America Outreach for 40 Days for Life. Thank you and hope to see you next week. God bless.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us all.